Big hip hop throwbacks, and of course, Moving the Needle podcast on the WDKX Podcast Network. Good morning, Dr. Palmer. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Rochester. What's up, everybody? We're here back for the start of the school year. We're just glad to be here.
And of course, Pastor Johnson, good to see you as always.
Good to be here. Another day above ground. I'm loving it.
And you have another guest in the studio this week. Whom are we talking about?
We have the great Dr. Mark Abraham. This brother is a school turnaround specialist. And, you know, we kind of just picking his brain, like, why do schools fail and how do we do something different? You know, and this brother, he does his thing. So we're honored to talk to him today.
Well, Dr. Abraham, welcome to WDKX. How are you?
Man, I'm doing wonderful hanging out with all this black excellence in here, man. I'm good, man. I appreciate you, King, allowing me to be on your show today.
Oh, we appreciate that. It's so easy. So you have a book. It's called What Success Looks Like. You're talking a little bit about it. Can you give a little bit of a background when you wrote the book, why you wrote the book, and increasing high school graduation and the rates across the country, especially for black people across the country?
Yes, I wrote the book because, looking at the statistics, black males have the lowest graduation rates in the country. They have the lowest literacy rates. We have the highest incarceration rates. And so what I saw was that there was a problem. And that problem has a solution. And most people are looking at that problem from a deficit perspective. And I want to look at it from an asset model, right? And so I want our kids in Rochester and other major cities around the country to have the opportunity to live the life that we're living right now. But, you know, if they don't graduate from high school and they don't know how to critically think, what happens for children that look like us, they end up either in the prison system, modern day slavery, or they end up getting killed in the streets. And so when I was a high school principal, I took a graduation rate from 60% to 87% and 93% for black males. So I know it's possible, but it needs, but principals and school leaders, they need the right systems to put in place so they can move the needle. And so that was a reason for writing the book.
There's so many questions I can start off here. Somebody right now is dropping their kid off at a school. Okay. Right. They got a quiet house, but obviously over the next 8 months or so, that child will hopefully be more educated than when they walked in today, up until the last day. If I'm a parent listening to this,
depends where they go to school at.
Yeah, well, once again, that is their choice. that is their choice, and they still have a choice if they want to go to goodschoolsrock.org, right?
Yes, sir.
They still have a choice. But if I'm a parent listening to this right now, how do I know my child is in a productive system that will allow them to succeed?
Man, I think your resume, the school's resume, you know, the past is a great indicator of the future.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And so what schools have done over the last 3 years is a great indicator of what that school is probably going to produce for your child. And for parents, a resource is data.nicet.gov, data, D-A-T-A, .nicet.gov. You can get your school's school report card and get the information of how they perform on tests, all of the demographics of the school right there on the website. It's public information, and it'll show you how your kids are performing. As parents, we really need to start to become empowered and not just trust a system that has been producing failing rates for so long for our children. We need to start, being a partner in this work. So if you see a school that's failing, you need to say, well, not for my child.
Yeah.
Like, this is not acceptable for my child. Or I need to find a different school or a different community that is going to produce better results, because I cannot afford for my child not to learn how to read, not learn how to critically think, not to know how to do math, and also experiencing microaggressions from people who have not accomplished anything in their own lives. And so now you're trying to hinder my baby's dreams because you didn't do anything for you. So now you're trying to hinder my child's dreams for being successful. I can't afford that for mine. So either I'll get to find a new school, or I need to come in and show you exactly what I need for my child. I need to be a partner.
That's so deep too, because I've been thinking about the NICET data website and the great information and what it can reveal. And I remember working on the school report cards a few years ago as we were trying to do some things with that. And we were talking about the net N numbers, so you can look at the subgroups and really understand the data behind the data. And it was interesting to note that when you looked at suspensions and the like and any punitive measures, that they seem to remain high with black males, whether we're talking about urban schools or suburban schools. Somehow the way people saw our black and brown babies was a little different. And so for the same basic infractions, they seem to be leveled some heavier suspensions and other things.
So, Pastor, I want to say a little different. So school is a microcosm of the real world.
Yeah.
It is what the world sees our black babies as. When you see a 14-year-old who has a water gun or Skittles and the cops kill him, that thought process is the same thought process that happens in the school. Black males are suspended 3 times higher than any other population in the country. Think about it. They're referred to special education. They're told, you can't learn, you can't read. They say they start looking at black children at the age of 3rd grade as adults. That's what the research says. But they also say they build prison. They build prisons on 3rd and 4th grade reading scores.
But let's talk about that for a second, because you said our parents go look at the data. So the data says, let's talk about here in Rochester. The data says 2% of our kids are proficient in math, and I think 8% are proficient in ELA. So that means if you look at the larger body here, you look at the school district that we're dealing with, what you gonna do? Because you just told them look at the data, but that's the data says. So that's why we need choice here. That's why we need other options. That's why we need schools that are performing and growing. Like we just were talking about Discovery the other day, how it went from that like 14% up to 71%. It's still growing. That's why there's other options and there's other things that are provided, because we need to have, our parents need choices. You need to look at that data. But when the data ain't working, what other options are you going to do?
It's such a long. I want to go back to the microaggression. I think that's a really good point as far as who's educating young people these days. I also want to go into something that I find to be interesting, where there isn't just one set of rules. We were talking last week about a system that stays the way it's been because it's always done it the same way. Whereas now we know kids learn different ways. So why isn't there different sort of models put out there for, okay, your kid learns this way, or your kid is interested in this, or your kid is interested in that? They have studies, you just said, for knowing exactly how many prisons to make at age 3. Why don't we have any sort of inclination on what a kid is interested in by grade 3 so we can put them in the right system? Why doesn't that exist?
It does exist. It's just people are not. So again, we're talking about bias. We can't like just overlook people's bias, right? And we're talking about a system that has been failing for a long time. In the minds of the individuals that are in that system, they struggle with a concept that the children that come from Rochester, I'm just talking about Rochester, because we're in the Rock, right? And so there's a paradigm that needs to be broken, because when they see the kids that they have in front of them, they don't believe those kids can actually learn. You can't think that they actually believe that if we're producing those results. And then we'll say, well, it's the parents, it's the community, it's the water, it's the people that are standing there in front of that young person and saying, I don't see you as brilliant. I don't see you as intelligent. So why would I invest the time to try to differentiate my instruction if that's not what I believe you're capable of doing? Right, and so that's the issue we're facing. We're facing a mindset and a thought process for young people that says we don't actually believe you could do it. Now, argue me if you want, but here's the reality: is if you saying I actually believe it, then baby, go produce the results.
All right, WDK's the week. We'll take a quick break. Come back. I get everybody in on this because I think this is a very interesting discussion at the start of the brand new school year. We are 103.9 WDKX. Moving the Needle podcast is available now on the WDKX podcast network.
I had to turn it down, but I heard the passion started going red.
My bad. Hey, my bad. Hey, I'm on live though, so
One of my questions was about why do we consistently see substandard or below average proficiency rates in urban schools across the country. And I think you're hitting on something, because in urban environments across the country, they see kids.
And that's part of what I was about to go next with, is talk about the bias, where I agree with brother, because like I do a lot of the DEI stuff, right? And so I was working even with a charter school last week, And you can tell, sitting in the audience, I had 70 teachers in front of me, and there's a lot of them that just don't believe in our kids.
Right.
Well, the
But it's their
microaggression
bias.
thing is what I find to be interesting. I think there is this, what should I say and what do I believe? What I'm saying is, I believe in our kids. That's what you're saying, but do you believe it?
Well, listen, your pastor Jesus said, "You draw near to me with your mouth, but your heart's far from me."
Yep.
So, what you actually believe will manifest itself in results.
Sure.
And so, what I'm telling you is, you can say whatever you want to say out your mouth,
Yeah.
but your actions, your
Right.
behavior
Yeah.
will
And that's
suggest
the
something
thing. So their
different.
behaviors, and that's the problem is their behaviors. A lot of people aren't willing to do what it takes to be successful. So they're not willing to invest in these systems that we're trying to implement. So if it's the teaching and learning, like there's people who don't want to write new plans. There's people who don't want to teach a certain way. They don't want to deliver instruction a certain way. They don't want to be held accountable but that's why.
But I think sometimes those microaggressions comes in costumes. We all play ball, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about the kid when the coach says, "No, that's all right. That's good. You're okay. That's the best you can do." You don't believe in that kid,
Yeah.
I can't get you back in the game.
right? You're dumb. It's the ones that know. Come on, you can do better than that. I expect more. See that pat in the back that you're getting from classrooms from some people?
That's hate. I tell people that's I tell teachers like this all the time. I say, we can talk about this on the radio, so I don't got to waste all this good content.
The microaggression thing, I think, is the real issue because that takes self-examination. So if you get mad at it, or somebody gets mad at what you just said, you're mad because he said something that you may even believe, not as opposed to me looking back and saying, "What's in my heart? I'm not mad about it because I know I'm giving good. I know I'm encouraging."
So you ask me why I get in trouble because when I get on this mic, I talk very passionately.
Yeah,
No.
The microaggressions are real though.
I'm not.
I've had a white teacher.
I've been doing this for a long time. I ain't gonna cuss. And I'm sitting next to the man of God. So.
Oh, you don't worry about it.
Yeah, he do cuss.
All the time.
He cussed on my front. It wasn't even not even that.
I ain't never heard.
What?
Let me say, are you serious?
You never heard me?
I didn't say anything. I said
He cussed like a light-skinned sailor.
He's keeping it real right now. They're trying to devilize.
goes wrong.
They're trying to devilize the light skinned man.
Nice, good man.
I love you, big bro.
Hey, we good. I've known to say a word or two.
20 minutes is like, wow, okay. I didn't really feel.
Oh man. I be saying what he want to say. He don't put a cloth on.
Rochester's #1 station for R&B, hip hop, and throwbacks. WDKX Podcast Network, moving the needle. Dr. Man, I've never seen Dr. Paul get in this, but y'all going in on him. He's
Getting into business.
Paul Miller is getting it. It's like Steven is like, I got a partner with him.
He's a big partner.
I got all right. We go at it. It's so funny. We were talking a little bit before about education, understanding it. It's a brand new school year, brand new philosophy. I also want to make sure that we mention the fact not only are there schools available through goodschoolsrock.org, you are hiring too.
There's positions available.
Yeah.
If you go to www.charterchampions.org, you can apply for positions throughout all 25 charter schools. And also you can apply generally to be in the network, and all your information will go to all the leaders. So make sure that you go on there, you apply. For those of you that aren't listening, but now just heard it a little bit, it's www.charterchampions.org. Go on there and apply directly, and the leaders will get to see who you are.
We're doing a new thing, by the way. I just want you to know that we're trying to break down these silos. So Charter Champions is doing a lot of work with teacher recruitment, teacher hiring, placing of individuals in school systems. Exceptional, where we own goodschoolsrock.org, and so we're providing data for all the schools in the sector, and also the stats that you need, but also the seats if you need a seat in the school for one of your children.
Dr. Abraham joins us now here on the show, the guest for this week. I got to ask, we were talking last week about the Discovery, it changed it around. well, how do you help change? How do you change the mentality of? Because you said you can look at the data of the school. School's not performing well, but you're the principal.
Mhm.
I believe in you. I believe you got. I believe you're like the Deion Sanders
Right.
of this school.
Right.
How do you get the buy-in? Because there are a lot of people that will talk. Man, that school was nothing like. Colorado was terrible last year. They won one game.
Mhm.
This guy changed the mentality, changed the room, changed everything. How do you get people to buy in to the change that you are trying to give them?
So you're talking to me now. So let me address that parent piece, because you said Dr. Parman said, hey, the data says it's all bad. Then what can a parent do besides removing their kid from the school, right? Because that's difficult, because you're talking about I got to move it to a different location. I might have to pay another, so that comes a lot of challenges.
Free and down the street.
Yeah.
So what I would say is, though, if you choose to keep your kid there, is once you understand what the data is telling you, when your kid's 5-week report card come out, the marking period report card, the 5-week progress report, look at that progress report. Look at the district formative assessment, the DIBELS or whatever it is that your kid is taking to see where your kid's literacy rate is, and then have conversations with that teacher to say, hey, what are you doing for my child to differentiate his or her instruction so my kid can be successful? So again, I'm empowering you to actually here are the skills you need to do to actually get the needle moving for your child, right? Yeah. So, but as a principal, how do you get the buy-in? I talk about it so much in my book.
What success looks like.
What success looks like, increasing graduation rates for young men of color, right here. So there's a lot of things that you need to do to create buy-in. Number one, as a school leader, you need to actually know where your school is. If you don't know where your school proficiency rates are, you don't know the graduation rates for your school, you don't know where your data is, then you'll never be able to go anywhere, because you haven't first located yourself. So you have to first see, I have to locate myself. Now, have a winner's mindset as a school leader to say, whoever walks into my school, we gonna be successful no matter what. If that's not your paradigm, if you're not looking at it from a perspective of I'm a champion and I win no matter what, then you're never gonna move your building. Number three, when you are having conversations with the school, I used to tell my teachers like this: we will accomplish these goals. I promise you that, because I'm willing to die for what I believe in. Not die, I don't want to go on the ground, but die in the sense of I'm going to be here every day out working, y'all. I'm going to be here when the doors open. I'm going to be here when the doors close. I'm going to make sure that I hold everybody accountable. Why? Because teachers and principals, you have to understand, you're not just a teacher. You're not just an assistant principal. You're not just a principal. You're a world changer. I have friends who are no longer here, and the commonality between all of my friends are either dead or in prison is that they don't have a high school diploma. Wow. So you have to really take this and take the bull by its horn and say, this is going to happen. And once you hold that position and say, we going to win no matter what, our kids are going to read, our kids are going to be successful. I don't care if they come in at a level 1, they're going to get to a level 2 because I'm here. Because I'm the difference maker. I'm the change maker. And y'all gonna get along. Or you could use any one of these doors and find an exit, because we gonna win at our school. That got to be the thought process.
Setting the culture. Setting the mood, walking in. It's gonna be interesting, man. I don't know. When you're starting the podcast, in like 4 or 5 minutes? I might just walk in that session.
Are we done that quick?
I might not. I don't know. I might want to be in on that bad boy in a matter of moments, because this is some real discussions.
No, it absolutely is. And I know we were talking about bias before, and that's one of the things I think we got to work to erase and eliminate, because there's so many of our educators out there that bring these biases, and there's so many of our educators that don't look like our kids, and they're even the ones that do look like our kids. They have these biases. So if we don't erase those, that's part of this thing that Dr. Abraham was talking about. I've had teachers, and you think about it when it relates to, this is an adult example, but I had a white teacher walk into the office one time and she looked at the office, one of the office managers. She looked at her hair and said, "Oh, that's your hair looks nice today," right? She gave her a compliment, and then she said, "That's not your hair." She was like, "That's not your hair," right afterwards. And the lady, it was
pick her up and take her down.
It was almost, it was almost, or that must be a wig or something. She said something like crazy, and the lady looked at me because my office door was open. And the thing is that that's a microaggression, right? But if those microaggressions are happening with an adult, you think those microaggressions aren't happening with kids? You think that they're not bringing those perceptions? So how do we work to eliminate those? We got to agitate. We got to bring up these biases. We got to be willing to wash them away and start fresh and do the work to make the changes that need to occur, because that's the only way we're going to dig in, especially when we have so many different people with so many different mindsets working with our kids.
And Dr. Abraham said something so profound that related to this that we really shouldn't skip over. If you really believe that you can do better, if you ever really believe that your kids can learn, if you absolutely believe they can learn, then what's your excuse for not doing better? If you believe it, then failure is not an option. But if you believe that's the best they can do, and you're going to pat them on the back and understand your traumas in life, understand the deficits that you have in life, and so therefore you being 3 grades and 4 grades behind, we get it, we're just going to move you along, that's not helping. But he's saying, but if you really believe what you're saying publicly, every kid in my class can learn. Why isn't every kid in your class learning?
But see, that's why people, they want to give out participation trophies. Like, stop giving out participation trophies. Start only, let's recognize the winners. Like, so we need the people who want to win.
The participation trophy in that thought process is really more of a reflection of the adult.
The adult.
It's not a reflection of the kid.
Right.
But we've been told, like, oh, that's the reflection of the kid. And let me say this. In my book, I talk about love and how love has to permeate in the school. You cannot actually hold the kid accountable that you're afraid of.
Wow.
You cannot educate a kid that you're afraid of, because that kid is big and whatever the case may be. If you're afraid of that kid, put a little percolation in your heart, you can never actually help that kid be successful. When you see that child, there has to be love, because what is love? Love is not patting you on your back and say, well, I know you come from a broken home. Right. It's okay that you skipping class and smoking weed and doing whatever it is you're doing. No, it's not okay. Love is high expectation. Love is accountable. Love is, I'm going to see you and I'm going to get you past that finish line because I believe in you and I'm not accepting no nonsense.
Go ahead. Love is Corinthians, Pastor. Go ahead.
Dr. West said that to lead the people, you got to love the people.
Wow.
So how are you going to lead students you don't love or you're afraid of? I'm with you on that.
So people say to me, Dr. Abraham, come give me an attendance program. I always say attendance program? Ain't no attendance program. Because the attendance program is you make people feel valued, welcome, appreciated. They come. The Crips and the Bloods never had an attendance program. They make kids feel, they make these young people have purpose, and they say you are valued in our organization. And even if they're doing something wrong, them kids are still coming. Yeah. So we want all these attendance programs. No, you don't actually appreciate the kid. Kid walk in, what you do? Take all the stuff out your pocket, strip you down, make you feel like a criminal. I don't feel welcomed here.
103.9 WDKX, the Wake Up Club, Moving the Needle podcast, WDKX Podcast Network. Quite the show, the episode. Good to meet you, Dr. Abraham. It was a pleasure, man. I appreciate the passion, too. He was like, man, I got a lot of passion. I'm like, good. We are 103.9 WDKX. Good morning.
Miller of ShiftDesk.com.
Lovely just said that in their podcast, what you just said. They're not verbatim, pretty much the same thing. What they're saying, take everything out your pockets, this, that, and third. And she was talking about, like,